Okay, so next up we want to talk about LeBron. LeBron's making a lot of noise, man. So first we talked about, I think it was in a video last week, we talked about how LeBron and Russell Westbrook were on opposite ends of the court at an NBA Summer League Laker game. And there was a lot of speculation as to whether there's some bad blood going on. Is LeBron working with the Lakers actively to try to trade Westbrook? Does Westbrook know what's happening there? So that was a week ago. Since then, LeBron has scored 42 points at a Drew League game, and he has been on an episode of his shop of his show, The Shop on HBO, where he's dropping gems and sound bites so that everybody can speculate as to whether he's talking about any specific people. And on top of that, Russell Westbrook fired his agent because apparently, and this is according to verified sources, this was reported like on ESPN and whatnot. Apparently, Russell Westbrook's agent wanted Russell Westbrook to stay with the Lakers because that's the best chance that you have to be successful, reinvigorate your image, and make the most money by accepting your third wheel role and just kind of buying in, falling in line, and being a soldier in LeBron's army to help win LeBron his fifth championship. And, reportedly Russell Westbrook wasn't with that. He wanted to be traded, or he wanted to be released. He wanted to get traded from the Lakers. And his agent was like, no, I don't think that's the best thing for you to do. So Westbrook, being the impetuous individual that he is, fired his agent. So that's just what's happened in the last week since that whole NBA Summer League game. And so LeBron was on The Shop, and Maverick Carter asked him a question about culture and winning. And this was what LeBron had to say when answering that question about culture and winning and sacrificing.
Does culture significantly impact how a team comes to success?
Definitely culture first, and then if you can blend that with the talent and the right pieces, it's the gateway to being successful for a long period of time. I could go back to when I was drafted at 18 and made my debut with Cleveland. There wasn't any culture. And that's no knock on anybody that was there or whatever the case may be, but there was no culture. And I felt like it was my job as an 18-year-old to try to build the culture, which is kind of unfair, but it is what it is. To try to build the culture, to make it seem like, or make it feel like it could be something special. But yeah, like you just said, like the culture is the number one thing.
Fair or not fair, do you love that pressure at this point in your career? Like win or bust. I don't care about scoring title, I don't care about anything. It's win or bust. Do you like that pressure?
Yeah, I'm obsessed with win or bust. And what makes me have sleepless nights is when you don't have everyone that feels the same way on your club.
Your club.
I know, right? Who talks like that?
Lebanon does. That's what does that. La culture.
See, that's the stuff that gets on my nerves with him. Like, who talks like that? But anyway, correction, that was not Maverick Carter that asked him about that. Maverick Carter's there, but he didn't ask him that question. And also, and this is an aside, but, the barber was there cutting up Maverick Carter. When he was done, it looked like Maverick Carter did not get a cut. So I don't know what's going on there. But that's just something that I noticed because I'm just crazy with this haircut stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It didn't really look like Maverick got a cut at all. But yeah, so what were your thoughts about what LeBron had to say about sleepless nights and it bothering him when other players on the club don't feel the same way? And by the way, there's speculation that when LeBron was saying that he was sending a subliminal message to either Anthony Davis or Russell Westbrook. That's a speculation. But what were your thoughts on what LeBron had to say?
I kind of agree with him. So, and I agree with him in the aspect of it is tough to try to win and build something where people around you don't care. And I can just attest to being at work and just working out and just doing my thing. There's a task on the docket, and okay, let me go do it. And then there's other people around that treat it like a group project, and they're just there for the grade. And so if you're LeBron and you're doing all this extra work and you just got guys showing up for the grade, that's or the championship, for instance, right? I think that would be frustrating to a guy who takes his profession very seriously. And so LeBron being the guy that, I mean, the guy is an absolute physical specimen. It is ridiculous how the guy looks right now. And he's damn near 40 and he is chiseled out. And so that only comes from working out. Like the guy is just going to work. So his shot now is better than it's ever been in his entire life. And the guy's just a bucket now. He was doing other things before, like, just bullying his way to the basket. And I didn't respect that. But the guy's fadeaway game is crazy right now. And his everything. And that came from due diligence, putting in work. Then you got Westbrook, who is, hitting nothing but backboard, airballing, throwing the ball out of bounds. And then you go, how are you doing this? And so for me, that has to come from a lack of due diligence. That has to come from a lack of passion. That has to come from a lack of wanting to put in the work to not shoot air balls. And so I can't really speak on AD, but AD does have an air about himself that does look like he isn't really all the way bought in. I can't call what that's coming from, but he doesn't look like he's all the way bought in. He looks like he's just chilling out there. And when you have those two guys, and those are the guys that you're supposed to lean on to make a championship run, I could see how that frustrates somebody who takes this profession so damn seriously. So I kind of agree with him. I don't agree with Club, but I agree with him.
Yeah, when he talks like that, I just roll my eyes. I'm with you. Like I am a LeBron detractor, but when he says something that makes sense, I'm not gonna deny it. And I understand it because I come from a similar place mentally. Like I have been in several situations personally, and you mentioned work. So I've been in several situations, and I continue to be in situations, even now in my professional life, where I find myself quickly frustrated when I feel like individuals who I have to work with in order to be successful in my job or just in life in general aren't approaching the task at hand with the level of perfectionism and attention to detail that I feel is a baseline requirement for being successful. And it's like, I'm not asking for you to be a master, but I do feel as though it is inherent in every grown adult who wants to be successful at something to adhere to a baseline standard of perfectionism and work ethic. And whenever I don't encounter that in an individual who I have to depend on in order to be successful myself, it pisses me off. So I completely get where LeBron is coming from with that. I've been there. We talked about this before in the past. I have been in situations where I've worked in environments where I felt like, I was by far and away the best at what it is that I did and the most consistent. So not only did I do what I did at the highest level from a performance standpoint, but I also performed that way at a high level consistently. And so I never said, hey, man, you need to be as good as me. But what I did say was, hey, man, think about what you're doing. Like, attention to detail is a skill that you can develop. You're not going to be as fast or as strong or as quick as me. But in terms of attention to detail and judgment, that's something that you can get better at. And if you cared enough about being successful at this, you would get better at that. And whenever I encounter someone who didn't see it that way, we just didn't click. It rubbed me the wrong way. And it would cause me to develop a bad disposition towards that person and the situation as a whole. And what that would often result in is people thinking that I was a bad guy. So like I'm now a bad guy or I have a bad attitude because I have that disposition about myself. When really it's like, hey man, all I'm asking for is for people to kind of get on a particular level so that we can all be successful. The difference between me and a person like LeBron, and this is where I roll my eyes whenever LeBron says that kind of stuff, is despite the fact that in a vacuum what he's saying is correct, I think that he is still preoccupied too much with being liked. And it's like if you're going to be the maniacal person who thinks that everybody should be on your page and is obsessed with winning, and if you have sleepless nights because you have people who are on your club who aren't as obsessed with winning as you, then you would also not care as much about those individuals liking you. And oftentimes what I find with LeBron is that he tries to toe this line between being maniacal but still being likable. And oftentimes those two notions are counterintuitive. Like if you're going to be the maniacal individual, you have to relinquish this need to be so liked all the time. And I still feel like LeBron wants friends and allies and wants people to like him. Like if he was talking about Westbrook or Anthony Davis in that clip, and I'm not saying that he is, I'm just, painting a scenario. Let's just say for kicks that he was talking about them. He's so passive aggressive. He'll never say that to them directly, which is what guys like Jordan and Kobe would do. Rather, he would do it on his TV show and then go to the Lakers and try to create a workaround situation to get those guys traded. And then make it seem as though he had nothing to do with it. When it's like, if you're really about that life, own it and communicate it to them in person and get rid of this need to be this likable guy. But I feel like LeBron is just so obsessed, and he's so obsessed with being liked and being LeBron, the benevolent social justice warrior, and being liked and being, worshipped for this, for the player empowerment guy that he is, that he says that on one end, but then on the other end, he's passive aggressive and he won't actually be confrontational. When in order to be that level of success, if you want to win 5 or 6 championships, you're going to have to be confrontational at some point. And that is proven. Like, this isn't my opinion. It's a verifiable fact. And so that's the kind of stuff that kind of makes me feel like he contradicts himself sometimes, which is what causes me to kind of criticize him whenever he makes these types of statements. But overall, what he said, I get and I agree with him. I just kind of feel like he is someone who cares too much about being liked at times, which runs afoul of his mission to be as successful as he claims that he wants to be. And it's like, dude, if you were really having sleepless nights, like if it were me, after about my 10th sleepless night, I get so tired of having I get so sick of having sleepless nights. I go to the guys who I felt like were holding me back, and I'd be like, bro, you need to either get on board or get the hell out of here because I'm tired of not sleeping at night. But, for him, it kind of seems like he's content with having all the sleepless nights. And it's like, okay, bro, pick one. Either you're maniacal and you don't want to have sleepless nights anymore, so you need to be a little more confrontational and care less about being liked, or stop talking about being maniacal and having sleepless nights and just accept what comes with the territory of being the likable superstar that you are. Pick one.
I agree with that. Didn't think about that, but my thing is, and I think the point that you're touching on is similar to the Jordan conversation that we had earlier, and you mentioned Jordan in this conversation. And so when dealing with Michael Jordan, like we said, like he was a sociopath, honestly, on and off the court. The guy was just absolutely out of his mind. And so since he was that way, you're absolutely right. He would have called the guy out. He would have threw the guy under the bus in a figurative way at practice. Like he just would have called people out. And the thing about LeBron, and that's why I mentioned that, the tier was, Jordan, Kobe, and then honestly, like LeBron's not even on this list when it comes to just insane, crazy basketball players. I think he's more insane when it comes to taking care of his body and preparation and practice. I think that's where he edges out everybody. But the thing is with him, his overall personality set is, I do agree with you. He has this thing where he wants to be liked. And that part of him that wants to be liked does avoid confrontation. It does avoid the things that, a leader really would do and say. I hear all kinds of compliments from guys that played with him of how sharp his IQ is, how this, how that. But the one thing I haven't heard from anybody that played with him, great players, in between, bench players, anybody, is that how much of a competing animal he is. And the only thing that I hear about is, again, his IQ, how much he knows about things, the stuff he knows about the other team's players and all that stuff's cool. But when it comes to actually just being out of your mind and saying, fucking, let's win basketball games, like chewing people out on the sidelines, he'll do that. But he's chewing people out that he can chew out. So he used to go crazy on Mario Chalmers when he played for the Heat. I mean, he just absolutely just sliding on that guy. And I was like, Chalmers, stand up for yourself, dude. And then, but now Jordan's just not Jordan. LeBron's just having his way, just saying whatever he wants to him. And so he's a very interesting guy. And I think that the interviews that he's having and the stuff that he says, I do feel like it's a little backhanded. I do feel as though it's a little passive aggressive. I agree with all of those things. But at the same time, LeBron is so Jordan got a brand for being Michael Jordan. LeBron has a brand as a lifestyle. And these are two different things. So Jordan didn't care about corporate appearance or none of that. He wasn't in the media trying to be a savior or nothing like that. LeBron is. So since he has all of this philanthropy, building schools, talking about social justice, being an ambassador for the NBA when nobody asked him to, all these other things. And when you have all of these hats that he's wearing, he's a politician. And so when he's being a politician, he has to talk out of both sides of his mouth. He has to say these things that come off a little off-putting to people who have a genuine, straightforward approach to life. Mm-hmm. And so when he says the stuff that he says, I personally give him a pass in the sense that he's playing politician. Whether he should or not, that's one thing or another. But he's playing politician because of his overall legacy and brand, and everything he says is about his legacy and brand. And so when he says words like club, he's giving talking points that will be given at some type of board meeting or whatever. And he's talking like that to the masses so they can digest it and ingest it in a way that's very tolerable. It's not, on first glance, it's not too off-putting. It's like, yeah, I can see that. Oh, yeah, I could. And so by being this guy who's always trying to appease, being this guy that's always trying to make sure he's saying the right thing, all right, he often comes off disingenuous. He often comes off as passive-aggressive. And, yeah, I'm also, I've seen him get coaches fired. Right. He tried to get Spoelstra fired.
Right.
So this guy has a record of this type of behavior. I can do some psychoanalysis on this too, but I won't. But still, I just think that the lack of him having, he said it, he got drafted at 18 right in the NBA just playing. And before that, single mom situation, high school, coaches, everybody loved him, blah, blah, blah. And for him to not have, I would say, outside looking in, I don't know who was really in his life, but I don't know if he really had that figure in his life that actually did stand on those morals, that actually did come straight to somebody and not get passive aggressive, especially if your primary caregiver is your mom. And so he might have developed some of these tactics and ways of being just from growing up. And Jordan, the sociopath that he is, it's a thing where he kicks it into gears that LeBron could never. Jordan would have just absolutely morally just absolutely just shitted off whatever Westbrook was doing. There's no excuse for his missing shots like that.
I don't even think Westbrook would have made it through the season.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
I don't think so either. And so I'm sorry, bro. If you are an NBA player, you have to hit the rim. Nah, bro. And he's just slinging it. It's like, are you even practicing?
Yeah.
It's really concerning.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I've told you what I think about that with Westbrook. I think he's in his head, but he's so bullheaded that even if he's in his head, he will do everything he can to make you think that he's not affected mentally. But because I've been there, hooping like that, whenever you're shooting air balls, or if you're shooting baseline jumpers and it's hitting the side of the backboard, whenever you're missing that badly, that's mental. There's nothing mechanical about that. That is all mental. So his basketball head right now is scrambled eggs, and it's coming through in how he plays. Like I think the Westbrook thing is completely mental. But I see what I hate doing. When I brought up Jordan, I wasn't trying to make that comparison because I think it's unreasonable to say Jordan wouldn't do. Like, I hate it when people do that. Jordan wouldn't have done that. Jordan doesn't do like, stop it with the Jordan stuff. It's like the Tom Brady comparisons. Tom Brady is one of one. Stop comparing other quarterbacks, NFL players. Stop making comparisons to Tom Brady. It's not practical. Tom Brady was a once in a lifetime. We will never have another NFL player win 7 Super Bowls. It's not going to happen. So stop it with the Tom Brady stuff and stop it with the Jordan stuff. So I wasn't trying to say be like Mike per se. But what I am saying is when it comes to team sports and you being the person who's quote unquote obsessed with winning, which is what you said you are, then it behooves you to be comfortable with confronting situations and individuals that you perceive to be an inhibition towards your goal. And I think LeBron is not comfortable with that. And I'm not saying that that's it's okay. Not everybody can be 100%, super A1 in every particular personality trait. But if you're going to say stuff like you have sleepless nights when people aren't on board on your club, you're going to have to be able to back that up with words. And thus far, I think LeBron has not been somebody who's able to do that. And you don't got to be like Jordan to do that. Like Giannis reportedly is somebody who gets on guys. Now he's a fun-loving, lovable guy that people like in the public eye. But when it comes to behind closed doors and practices and other guys he plays with, he is reportedly somebody who'll get after teammates. And I don't think that he's maniacal in the sense that Jordan was, but you just have to be comfortable with confrontation. So maybe it's less about like, demoralizing people and more so just about being comfortable with the notion of being confrontational. And it's not even confrontational from the standpoint that you're going to punch a guy or fight a guy or get into an argument, but you have to be willing to confront the things that you feel are holding you back. And I feel like LeBron's that's never been an aspect of his personality. And, you can be right in terms of the origins of that. I wouldn't dispute any of that, but I think the book is out on it. And I think that it's safe to say he is somebody who's just never been comfortable with doing anything like that. And it is what it is. I just kind of think that you have to be comfortable with confrontation. If some of those are sound bites, in my opinion, if you have the history throughout your career that you have, but you still feel the need to say that kind of stuff. Like, if you have, like I said, after my 10th sleepless night, I'm going to confront the thing that's causing me to not sleep so that I can eradicate it so that I can sleep better. But it's like LeBron kind of tries to be a politician, to use your words. And yeah, he is, he's not a businessman. He's a businessman, and I get it. There's an interesting it kind of compares to like the whole years back, Kevin Hart was talking about why he can't do what Dave Chappelle does. Because essentially Dave Chappelle has created a niche where he can be successful in the comedy space and say whatever he wants. And Kevin Hart was like, I can't do that because I got these movies and these production companies and I employ people. So the minute that I say something that's controversial or that can be perceived as disagreeable, people don't like it, and people come for my head and want me to get fired, I'm going to have to answer for that because I'm responsible for other people. I'm an entity. I'm not just Kevin Hart, the individual. So I can't do what Dave Chappelle does. This is kind of similar. Like LeBron can't do what Jordan did. As big as Jordan was, I agree, Jordan was not an entity. He was just a global superstar. And LeBron is like this entity, so he can't move the same way. But for me, listening to his words, I just roll my eyes when he talks about, being obsessed with winning in that way. Because I think in order to be obsessed with winning and I'm not trying to slight his career. He's won 4 championships. He's done a lot. He's one of the greatest players ever, obviously. But when you talk like that, you're going to draw the comparisons to others who are willing to do what it takes from a personality standpoint in order to get there. And I think that there are degrees of separation between where LeBron is with that and where other guys are with that. Even if you look at guys like Jimmy Butler, you don't got to go as far as Jordan. You can go Jimmy Butler. Like I said, you can go Giannis. There's other guys who are willing to kind of put their money where their mouth is in that way.
Agreed.